Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be completing the work we've started on the blog application. Previously we have the home page for the blog where you have the title, who was written by, the date, what category it belongs to, and a button which right now doesn't work, but the button is going to allow you to read the post. We also have the category on here where we see the list of category, and the idea is we can select this button or the title, and it's supposed to take us straight to the categories or the posts that are under this category, right? Very straightforward, very simple. Let's see how it's going to be done in code. To achieve this, we need a view function. We need a new entry to the URLs in the Pages app, and we need a new template. So let's call this posts by category. It's going to take in requests. How this is going to work is once someone comes here, they click on this, it's going to list out all the posts that have that same category. Different ways you can do this. Way we're going to do it now is we want this function to take in another argument, and that argument is going to be the category slug. So let's call it category slug. Remember, in the model, when you come here, you have this category slug, which is just a URL friendly extension of the name. That's what it is, because we use the slugify function. We did this in previous videos. Let's add docstring before we do anything else. So view that lists the posts which belong to a category. That's what it does. To do this, we can filter all the posts by category. That's one way we can do it. We can also do it the other way around. So let's say posts dot objects dot all. So give me all the posts. We're going to put this in as a variable to this. I want to filter first. We only want the published stories to be shown. So published equals to true. So that's the first thing we want. Only show published stories. Next, we can filter by the category and then the category slug. So we have the post, we filtered on only the published post. Next, we can filter by category. Okay, remember when you go under the models, you have posts, right? And category is also a field. But then this category is another model. So it's a foreign key which represents one-to-many relationship. And under this category, we want the category slug to match. Looks a bit complicated, but we'll get to it. So to do that kind of extended query in Django, we use to underscore and then say category slug. I want it to be equals to the category slug in the function, and that's it. So let's put a nice variable name. Let's say list of posts, equate it to that. We give it a context. Okay, do that as well. We need to return, oops, how bad, return render run request equals to request template name. We haven't created this yet. Let's say it's first going to be in Pages app. Let's give it a name, posts by category.html. And so we don't have an error. Let's go create this right away. Okay, we can add this. For right now, it's empty, but it's gonna be very similar to this. So go ahead and just copy this. I'll make the necessary changes instead of having to type a bunch of things. So I'll explain what we're doing here. So this is let's give it a different name so we'll know when we get there. Say posts. And wait, one more thing. You need to specify the context. Context is context. And this is what we need, list of posts. That's what we need. Okay, so let me copy that outside and make it typo. And we can change this to post in list of posts. What do we want to display? So for each of those posts, we want to display the title. For now, we can add more stuff later, but for now I think it's just okay to display the title. It's fine. Let's just change all of these. Post the title. Okay, this looks reasonable. Looks reasonable right now. Next, what do we want to do? Now we need to find a way to connect that to the URLs page, and that's going to be the final part of it. So look at the workflow. Whenever you want a new page in your application, first thing you need to create a view function that queries maybe the database in this case and returns. So it takes in a request and gives out a response. First thing. Next, you want to actually make sure that the templates where the response will be displayed exists. And lastly, you want to connect this view to the URL. Every time in Django, we're going to be doing the same things. Okay, now that makes sense, let's go to URLs. We want the URL to be such that when people go to the website, go to categories, the next thing will be the category name. To do that is actually really straightforward, and that's why we have the slug in the first place. So say categories slash. In this case, we're going to use the variable which we listed in the views function. We're saying we want it to be a string. Okay. And what did we call it? Category slug. Yeah, that's that for that. Next, we need to tell the part what function it is, and we give it a name. Let's say list of posts. Okay, that's that. Let's double check everything, make sure that it works as it should. Lastly, we need to add under the category. Now we need to call this URL. So we have this URL, we give it a nice name, list of posts. We come under category, and this is where we specify what it is. So just the way we specify, let me show you in base. You notice in base, this is what we did. We specified the URL, the name, that's it. We're going to do the same thing using this tag format and show you in category. So for category, let's do this, letting the template know that okay, this is a tag, special tag. The URL keyword is necessary, so we call this list of posts. Let me be sure that that's what it is, list of posts and not list of posts. A list of posts, good. List of posts. We now also need to specify what the category slug is. Remember in this, we named that we mentioned apart from request, we also want this other parameter to be specified, which is a category slug. So we're just going to come here, specify it, equate it to category. Now this category is mentioning this parameter which was used for iterating through this all categories. So we're going to say category dot. Now at this point we are trying to reference the attributes in the model. Category slug. Cool. Yeah, and we should be save it, and we should be good to go. On looking at this should be, remember we're trying to get post by category, so this is what we should have put there. So let me just copy it, post by category. Not so list of category was used for the previous URL, and this is what we're using for this. Okay, post by category, that was a typo. Okay, so let's see how it all works out. Come here. So of course from the home page, when you go to categories, you can see the categories. You have fashion and style, science and technology, news. Great. Let's click on this. What do we see when we click on that? You can see it then shows the posts that relate to the category of fashion and style. And one key thing I want you to see over here, which is one of the most beautiful things about Django, which I personally admire and love so much about the framework, is the fact that it's so easy to construct beautiful URLs. You can see this is going to be the name of your your blog app, whatever you call it, your domain name. But in this case, since we're still developing it, it's the development localhost. It shows categories and then the category slug which we chose, which makes sense, right? So that's how it was constructed in the urls.py file. Let me show you that real quick. This is the URLs file in the pages application. You can see I hard coded the value categories, and then I put this category slug as a string. So where this comes from, this category slug, it comes from the view function here. So because I'm trying to query the database based on the category slug, this is where it all comes from. So this same value, if I change it here, I would have to change it in the URLs as well. So it goes to the URLs and it tells, okay, this is what I want the URL should look like. It should be categories and the category slug of the selected category. Let me show you what that is. So remember, when we go to categories, this is fashion and style. The slug form of this is fashion-style. So you know what? Let me just show that over here so we can understand what it is. Let me just put a paragraph. Category slug, so you can see what it's going to look like. So when you click on this button, it goes, let me show you the flow from here. So you click on this button, we already know that this is fashion and style, that's the title. We also know that the slug of it is fashion and style. Good. So what does this button do? Let's look at this button. So this is the button, is an anchor tag, and we said for this button to work, you need to find the URL that has the name list of posts. And this can be a bit confusing, so I might just change this to, let's say, post list. Let me change the post list so it doesn't conflict or you don't get confused. Let's change this to post list by category. That's what I named it as. Let me copy it. But before then, let me show you that there's going to be an error and what the error is going to look like, because part of learning to develop software is knowing how to deal with the errors when they come, not if they come. Okay, so let's just refresh. It's going to throw an error, of course. So it said reverse for post list by category not found. It said post list by category is not a valid view function or pattern name, which is true. So let's go fix that. Bugs like this can be so cryptic sometimes if you don't know, and it could take you a long time to try to debug. The reason is because on this categories page, right, we told that, okay, anytime this button is selected, the href, right, so href is the link that is, associated with it, should be, you should go check for this URL with this name. If you come here, you see there's the names are, home, categories, list of posts. There is no URL with that name, so that's why I give the error. Now if I just change this, okay, oops, put it in string, yeah, and I can delete this. If I do this, what do we have? If I refresh, boom, it works. Okay, so that's how it goes. Okay, so it goes from the button, which is represented here under the category.html. So it goes, okay, look for this URL link, and it looks for it here and finds it. So it says, okay, this is the one that has the same name that matches. Then what this URL pattern does is it says, okay, Once you find it, look for under views, look for post by category, which is fine. So we go to here and it comes to this view file, searches for a function with the name post by category, and it finds it and then runs the function. But remember, this function is special because it has another attribute apart from request, and that's how the chain just goes. So then while in the URLs, I said, okay, yeah, I found the function, but he has another attribute called category slug. What am I to do with it? So based on that attribute, I'm telling right here, what I'm saying is, okay, whatever the attribute's name is, append it to the URL link for that page. And that's how it just goes. Yeah, it takes some getting used to if, the first time you're doing it, but after some time, it just, makes sense. It just makes sense. And you're like, oh yeah, I get it. It might take some time, but you definitely get it for sure. Yeah, and category slug. And this is where it's in this same button. After it specifies the URL and all that happens, it specifies, okay, what it wants the category slug attribute in the function. That's this. What it wants it to be, which is, I want it to be the category slug of what you pulled from the database. And this is what we pulled from the database. So all categories. Yeah, it's really interesting. But when you get it, it just makes sense. Like, you just get it, and from then on, it's just going to be so easy to make URL friendly, pages for your web application. That being said, let's go see what is under science and technology. See, it's empty because there's nothing there. We'll need to adjust this for sure and probably put like a message if the page is empty. Of course, news, we didn't put anything on the news as well, so no surprise that this is empty. So under fashion and style, it just shows, okay, these are the different things, although this does look like fashion and style, but anyways, this is what you have here. And if you go to the home page, I should have just connected this to the home page. I will in the next video. Let's say, let me just copy this. Okay. Yeah, you can see desktop app first view, it's October. Okay, and desktop app Facebook, it's October, because they all belong to the same category. See, so you get the idea of how we're using categories and URLs and views and the database, how they all commingle together. Yeah, so if we're to go here, see changes, the URL changes science and technology. I think this is a good stopping point for today, for this video. In future videos, we still have a lot of work to do just on the URLs and things like that. What we're going to do is, when we go under fashion and style, we should be able to read this blog post, and there are still some aesthetic aspects which I want to improve in here. So you can go read the blog post. You can also go to home. I need to connect this to the home button, so once I just click on that, it takes me all the way back to home and things of that nature. But slow and steady, we're going to get to it in due time. No rush. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. I plan to release more content on web development and data science and machine learning and even mobile development. So I feel this is a great channel for anyone that is interested in getting into the tech through different routes. Thank you, and I'll talk to you another time.